Whenever you play a game, there's going to be something you enjoy about it more than anything else. In Destiny 2, for me, it's the Fighting Lion exotic grenade launcher. Ever since I discovered this weapon's true potential, I've been hooked. So today, we're going to look at a build that takes this weapon to the next level. Let's get started. The Fighting Lion is the most unique weapon in Destiny 2 because of the way it alters your playstyle. Its exotic perk, Delayed Gratification, causes grenades to bounce and allows them to be remotely detonated. Its secondary perk is Thin the Herd. Direct hits deal bonus damage to shields, and rapid kills after damaging an enemy with the Fighting Lion refills the magazine. Kills with the Fighting Lion also always drop primary ammo. There's a lot going on with this weapon, but the most important thing to note is that you don't have to reload it if you're using it correctly. With that in mind, I want the rest of my build to help me quickly and efficiently take down enemies. To do that, we'll be using the Way of 1000 Cuts Hunter subclass branch. This gives us access to the Knife Trick melee ability and the Playing with Fire passive. Knife Trick throws 3 knives that fan out with distance. Hitting an enemy causes them to burn and sets up the Playing with Fire passive. Killing burning enemies causes your knife to recharge faster, and this buff can be stacked 3 times. So now we're starting to create a rotation. We kill an enemy with a shot from the Fighting Lion, throw a knife to secure another kill, which will reload the lion, then start the loop again. That on its own is cool, but we can make things flow better by adding an exotic armor piece. The sealed Ahamkara Grasp has amazing synergy with the Knife Trick and Fighting Lion. Dealing melee damage reloads your currently equipped weapon. This means knife throw hits will reload the Fighting Lion. Now, even in situations where we can't secure a kill, we can safely reload the Fighting Lion from range with Knife Trick. For armor mods and perks, I'll be using the same setup I use on most of my Hunter builds. Because of Gambler's Dodge and the ability to reset the Hunter's melee ability, there's almost never a reason to use impact mods for melee cooldown reduction, and super mods are only for builds based around super enhancing exotics. So I'll be using 2 Paragon mods for class ability cooldown reduction and 3 Ordnance mods for grenade cooldown reduction. For armor perks on your helmet, you ideally want hands-on for bonus super energy on melee kills. Unfortunately, I don't have a helmet with that perk, so I'll be using Ashes to assets instead. On my boots, I have Bomber, activating my class ability reduces the grenade cooldown, and finally on my gloves, I have Impact Induction. Melee hits reduce the cooldown of my grenade. The Fighting Lion and the sealed Ahamkara Grasp can be difficult to come to terms with, but let's go out into the field and see how it all works. Okay folks, for today's testing we are doing the Pyramidian Nightfall Strike. This one can be a little bit on the difficult side, but if we play our cards right and manipulate our abilities correctly, we won't have much of a problem. So, the main thing that we're going to try to take advantage of is the Fighting Lion and the sealed Ahamkara Grasp, but the secondary thing that I want to try to manipulate as best as possible is the Playing with Fire passive ability for the Way of 1000 Cuts. Because I'm soloing a Nightfall, I'm probably going to end up saving my fan of knives mostly to deal with major enemies, especially because of the loadout that I'm using. I have a scout rifle and the Fighting Lion, so I don't have a lot of stopping power. Oh, I'm going to die already. Maybe not. Maybe so. They flanked me. So yeah, my throwing knives are going to be a very valuable tool for dealing with major enemies, major busting, if you want to call it that. So I may not make, I probably won't be throwing knives like a wild person. I'm going to try to be a little bit more reserved and tactical about how I use them. Alright, here's a perfect opportunity to make use of the sealed Ahamkara Grasp. Threw it at the enemy to get a reload on my Fighting Lion, because I messed up a shot. So now I'm going to have to play in cover mostly because there's so many enemies marching towards me. But that's okay. That's what the scout rifle is for. There we go. As we move into the next area, I think it's important to note that a loadout like this is very difficult to use. The Fighting Lion, while it is powerful, it's a very specific skill set to get good with, and it takes time. You know, you got to practice with it. I totally understand why people say the Fighting Lion is bad, it's not worth using, and things of that nature. It's a waste of an exotic slot. And I totally agree with all of those sentiments, unless you practice with it. As soon as you start practicing with grenade launchers and this loadout, you get really good. And it's a lot of fun. Alright, so this next area has a lot of enemies for us to deal with, so we should be able to build up a lot of stacks of playing with fire and get a lot of really crispy resets on our fighting lion. Now I'm going to play cover a little bit here because there's so many enemies and I can't really push out. Ooh, where did they all come from? I feel like they just appeared out of nowhere. It's a good thing I had an ultimate ready. I'm not going to reload. I'll use the sealed Ahamkara to get the reload from a distance with the melee, the fan of knives. Got another guy using the fighting lion's property there, getting a kill after damaging an enemy to auto reload the fighting lion. So really the goal here is to never have to reload any of my weapons. Obviously there are going to be moments when I just mess up and I do have to reload, but that's okay. I'm waiting for him to teleport. He's not going to do it. I'll finish him off with the knives. That did get the reload. Bang, bang, bang. Getting a little overwhelmed, so I'm going to stay back in cover. Oh, I forgot to reload. Long distance shot to pop his shield, and then we'll finish him with the scout rifle. Really? My aim is terrible. Alright, this next part of the Nightfall, we have to disable 4 network towers. This is the most difficult section. This is going to be the true test of our loadout. See if we can make it through this. Alright. Alright, we've dealt with some of the enemies that killed. That Cyclops that killed me was a little bit goofy, but we're moving past it. Hey, buddy. Got a big old Minotaur. Let's throw our fan of knives at him to clean him up. We've got a lot of just regular old goblins. Let's throw a grenade and then back off. Let the grenade do its job. And we've got to deal with those hobgoblins. I hate hobgoblins so much. I know I can shoot off their heads so that they don't turn invulnerable for a few seconds and heal, but I always seem to miss. So can't deal with them that way. Now we've cleaned up the entrance area pretty well. Now we've just got to deal with the rest of the room, and that shouldn't be too much of a problem for us. He said right before he probably almost died. Now there is another Cyclops on the right side of the room, so I'm going to go ahead and deal with him. Didn't need to fire 2 grenades. I thought the first one was going to miss, but it didn't. Alright, I'm not going to do this entire boss fight because it's kind of annoying, but what I can do is show you a little trick with the sealed Ahamkara grasp that you can do with power weapons. It doesn't have to be a grenade launcher, it could be a rocket launcher, anything with a small magazine capacity. What we're going to do, as soon as the boss activates, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, throw the knives to reload, and then he's going to teleport. But if he didn't teleport away, we could have fired 5 more grenades at his face and would have done some nice damage. So again, I'm not doing this boss fight because I think it's really annoying, but overall this loadout is very powerful. Difficult to use because of the nature of grenade launchers. It's a slow moving projectile. You have to remote detonate it or get a direct hit to use it at its maximum effectiveness. But when you do use it at its maximum effectiveness, the way it was meant to be used, then the results are phenomenal. You destroy large groups of enemies, and even single targets, especially targets that have void shielding, will get ripped open, and it feels very good. And there we go, that's gonna do it for the build for today. The Fighting Lion, again, I love this thing to death. It's my favorite weapon in Destiny 2, and it might be one of my favorite weapons in video games, period. It brings me so much joy to use this gun, and hopefully this build can bring you some joy as well. With all of that in mind, we're going to wrap things up here, but don't worry, there's plenty more to come. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you'd like to provide more support to the channel than you already do, just by liking, subscribing, commenting, and watching, you can head over to patreon.com/iBluairJgR to become a patron. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.